Please, don't hurt me, I can't walk, begged the trembling voice in the darkness. Her words cut through the silence like a knife. What no one knew, what no one could have imagined, was that the woman who now sat helpless and afraid wasn't just anyone. She was one of the most powerful CEOs in the city, a name that shook boardrooms, a woman who commanded empires. Yet at that moment, stripped of her strength, she was just a fragile soul waiting for mercy. And the man who stood before her wasn't her bodyguard, not her business rival, not even an enemy. He was a single father who had walked into her life at the very moment it was falling apart. Neither of them knew that what was about to happen would change both of their lives forever. Stay with me, because by the time you hear how their paths collided, you'll believe in second chances, in kindness, and in the kind of love that can heal even the deepest scars. The story began on a stormy evening, rain tapping against cracked windows in an old, forgotten part of the city. Daniel, a single dad, was on his way home after a long shift. Life had been a struggle ever since his wife passed away 3 years earlier. Every decision he made now was for his daughter, Lily, a bright-eyed little girl who never complained, even when life offered them so little. They lived in a small apartment, ate simple meals, and shared moments of laughter to hide the heaviness that sometimes threatened to break them. Daniel didn't have much, no wealth, no influence, no connections, but he had love, and that was enough for Lily that night, though. As he walked past an abandoned warehouse shortcut on his way home, he heard something unusual, a faint cry, almost swallowed by the storm. He froze, his instincts flaring. Please, don't hurt me. I can't walk. The voice was weak but desperate. Against every reason telling him to just keep walking, he moved toward the sound. And there she was, a woman in a torn, rain-soaked dress, her ankle twisted painfully, dirt smudging her face. Her eyes, full of both fear and pride, met his. She didn't recognize him, but he knew her immediately. Everyone did. She was Claire Whitmore, the untouchable CEO of Whitmore Enterprises, the woman whose face was on magazines, whose speeches on success echoed through television screens. And now, she looked so small, so breakable. Please, she whispered again. Daniel didn't hesitate. He took off his jacket, draped it over her trembling shoulders, and crouched down. I'm not here to hurt you. I'm here to help. She studied him, her trust shaken by whatever had brought her here, but his voice carried a sincerity she hadn't heard in years. Without another word, he lifted her in his arms, careful not to jolt her injured leg. She gasped softly, not from pain but from shock that a stranger would carry her as if she weighed nothing, as if she were worth saving. By the time they reached Daniel's apartment, Lily had already run to open the door, surprised to see her father carrying a stranger. Daddy, who is she? She asked, her voice innocent, her eyes wide. Daniel just smiled softly. Someone who needs our help. That night, Claire, the CEO who once had everything, found herself sitting on a worn couch in a tiny apartment, with a child offering her a warm blanket and a man boiling water for tea. For the first time in years, she wasn't Claire Whitmore, the powerful executive. She was just Claire, a woman who had been saved by a single dad and his little girl, but things were never that simple. The next morning brought reality crashing back. Claire tried to leave, determined to keep her secrets hidden. She didn't want pity, didn't want to explain how she had been chased, robbed, and left stranded. Yet when she tried to walk, her leg gave out. Daniel caught her before she fell. You can't do this alone, he said firmly, his eyes meeting hers. She hated needing help, hated feeling weak, but for reasons she couldn't understand. She didn't hate the way Daniel looked at her, like she wasn't broken, like she wasn't a burden. Days turned into weeks. As her leg healed, Claire became a silent part of their home. She watched Daniel pack Lily's lunch, braid her hair, and tuck her in with bedtime stories. She saw how hard he worked, how selflessly he gave everything for his daughter. And slowly, something began to change inside her. She realized she had been rich in money but poor in life. Her world of luxury and control had been empty compared to the warmth of this little family, yet, not everyone was ready for Claire to disappear from her empire. Rumors began spreading. The press wondered why the CEO had gone missing. Her board members whispered of betrayal, of weakness. And when her assistant finally tracked her down, Daniel realized who she truly was, not just Claire, but the Claire Whitmore. For a moment, he pulled away, afraid their worlds were too far apart. You don't belong here, he muttered, his heart breaking at the thought, but Claire shook her head, tears in her eyes. No. This is where I finally feel like I do. It all came to a head one evening when Lily asked innocently, Miss Claire, are you going to leave us? Silence filled the room. Claire's hands trembled as she held the child's small fingers. She had power, wealth, a company waiting for her return, but none of it compared to the home she had found here, in the arms of a little girl and her father who had given her something she never had before, love without condition. So, Claire made a choice. Not to abandon her empire, but to rebuild it differently, with compassion, with humanity, with the lessons she had learned in a tiny apartment where love meant more than gold. And Daniel, who once thought he was just an ordinary single dad, realized he had changed the life of the most powerful woman in the city, not with riches, not with influence, but with kindness, because in the end, what Claire had begged for that stormy night wasn't just safety. She wasn't just pleading not to be hurt physically. She was pleading for someone to see her, to love her beyond her title, beyond her brokenness. And Daniel did, and that's why their story lives on, not as the tale of a CEO and a single dad, but as a reminder to us all, sometimes, the greatest power lies not in what you own, but in how deeply you love.